All right, I'm Dr. Sharon Carrick with the University of Louisville. I'm going to go ahead and start because I always like to start on time and end before the time ends up, so you get some minutes back at the end to do other things like wolf down a sandwich or whatever it is that you're doing. I want to make this kind of interactive, so I'd like for you to put things in the chat room, ask questions, and I'll try to moderate that. And Susan, if you'd be so kind, if you see something in the chat room that I missed, if you'd be so kind to alert me to that audio, just because I may not see it at the same time as I get on a roll and get pretty enthusiastic about HR and analytics through this time period. I'll just give you a little background about myself. Several of you I know, several of you I don't know, but I am a professor at the University of Louisville. I'm an assistant vice president for our Digital Transformation Center. I was at U of L for 15 years at the College of Business, taught entrepreneurship, and so a lot of people know me for that. I left and became the dean of Bellarmine's Business School, and then I hired Neely Benapude's husband, Venkat Benapude, who's a professor at Bellarmine, and then they worked on recruiting me back. So now I'm back to U of L and delighted to be here. It's a great time to be at the University of Louisville. Prior to that, I was one of the owners of a technology company. I always tell people this was before you were born, because now in my second career, I've been in academia for about 18 years. Hard to believe, but my other company, and I've had several companies, but one that most people know is Microcomputer Solutions. We did technical training in a 5-state area and did a lot of technical certifications, trained between 11 and 13,000 students, and at our highest point of employment, we had about 340 full-time staff. And then when I left that there and came to U of L just to teach a couple of CIS classes, really loved and enjoyed education so much. I actually have a master's in human resource and then my PhD in org development, where my dissertation was on teaching entrepreneurship. So all things entrepreneurship, but also really I boil it down to all things people. Anything that I do seems to relate to management of people or the integration of people or some way or form in that fashion. So I put my contact information out there. You're welcome to email me, and we'll go ahead and get started. And I've got a quick PowerPoint, but again, you know, it's boring to hear somebody just drone on, so I love to hear your questions as we go along. And I'll just start out by saying that I really want to talk about kind of the transformation of data. And during this session, throughout the session, I'm going to give you a couple of tools. So even if you're an expert with data, these tools will be helpful to move you forward. Or if you're a beginner, I'm hoping that it'll inspire you at least to take the first baby step. And these are free tools, free, accessible to anyone. So first I thought I'd just talk about, you know, thinking about how much data is out there and why we're looking at data so much in the human resource realm, how we can actually look at data models to project and look at the perforation or the performance of where we want to be and how we want to move through things for our planning purposes, but also to put the right people in the right place. And this data to make these decisions is really quite valuable. If you've not ever heard of the Gartner Group, you can get some free downloads. Usually you have to pay for some of their extensive reports. But you can get some free downloads with how different ways that people are using data mining for human resource. And as we see, this is kind of the next step in a bludgeoning endeavor to get people in the HR field to have some kind of form of analytics. I thought this was an interesting statistic that 87% of business leaders say that their digital transformation is a priority, but only 21% of them think that they have a current day approach to bettering and helping adjust and download and face this new challenge. I've always had the theme analytics all, and it's sort of like when we learned how to do word processing. At first, this is before you all were born, but back in the olden days, we'd dictate something and someone else would type it up, and then it came over the years that we would type it ourselves directly into the word processing software. Same thing for Excel and so on and so forth. Well, that same revolution is happening right now with artificial intelligence and data analytics. And I'm just focusing on data analytics, but at the end I'll talk a little bit about artificial intelligence and give you some free resources that you can send out to your folks or anybody, so that you can be more well versed in these things. But I really like Gartner Group because they kind of project and forecast the future for things, and there's all kinds of talent and people seminars, the future of work seminars and things like that. But Gartner Group does give kind of the landscape across the country, very valuable information. And I know SHRM posts and documents a lot of different resources on their website as well that have extremely valuable statistics for us too. But Gartner Group happens to be one of my favorite kind of go-to type situations, organizations from a consulting perspective. So it's interesting, to think about, again, not just hiring, but where do we find these people? It's harder and harder to find the right talent, but it should get easier and easier because now we have all this data out there, and we can, again, harvest the data, look through the data, analyze the data, and make projections on even what type of people would be most successful in what type of jobs. And we have lots of tools that many of you have been using for years and years and years for that kind of process as well. And so on this statistic talking about recruitment challenges in the digital age, again, back to, gosh, with 58% of lead recruiters are having difficulty finding and placing the right people. And again, a lot of this leads to just the statistics that we're kind of woefully not unprepared to actually do digital transformation in HR and really most businesses. I don't know if I have anybody here from Humana, but I've been working with Humana, and Microsoft and General Assembly has been doing training from top to bottom on artificial intelligence and some analytics tools for their entire workforce. And so when you think about, again, a nurse, you think, well, they don't really need to know too much about setting up artificial intelligence and analytics. But I'll beg to differ with you a little bit, and I'll say the nurse needs to know enough so that they can read and understand the data, but also so they can request data. So if they're always seeing themselves having to go through charts and find certain data, it'd be great if they understood a little bit more about analytics where they could communicate to the people that are the IT people to pull that data out for them. So you see how this goes both ways, is try to educate so that you learn how to ask for things or fashion that up, but also the technical side of the house whereby you can manipulate the data and utilize it for projections and thinking through different elements for your organization. And I think about, again, the use of analytics and informs talent acquisition. Where are the people and who's responding? And maybe we need to change the way we've written our ads. Maybe we need to look at how we've designed our ads. Sorry, keeps jumping around. But so that we get more responsiveness, but also when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, are we using keywords and things that give this blanket umbrella that's welcoming and reaching all different types of individuals so that we have, again, more appropriate workforce, if you will, a more diverse workforce, and again, can be more responsive to that planning and resourcefulness. The second panel on this is thinking about recruiting teams doing things differently, is focusing on talent trends, not just current business needs. And so I'm trying to project to you that in the next 2 to 3 years, and this has been widely publicized, artificial intelligence and analytics at the desktop is going to be, a kind of a basic tool that we all need to ensure that people know how to do, and again, at various levels. Again, so I might be an executive and I just need to be aware of what these tools can do. I'm not really going to be the technical person delving in and designing and doing the coding and so on and so forth. And then the last item in this panel, thinking about how we leverage this sophisticated predictive talent analytics. I'm working with the Army on some of their projections and how they want to change things based on kind of past predictors, present predictors, and what are some future things that they can do more career planning so that they won't have such a recruiting issue as they ebb and flow just like every organization does with their talent. And then one of the second to last items, and this is all from that Gartner Group report that you can download, thinking about toolkits and tools that we can turn the data into insights. And this particular report, and I saw that Susan posted the link, is free. It's a free download. But, how do we look at, again, understanding which types of data we can collect, what's out there that we haven't even thought about. I'm teaching a class right now. We have a class where people can get 5 technology industry badges, and we customize it to where their interest is, if it's AI or data analytics, whatever it happens to be. Long story short, we are doing, as a pilot in that class for an applied learning project, we are harvesting data from Facebook and looking at Facebook so that we can think about, what kind of people are in what kind of jobs, and we're able to set up those parameters, and as long as it's a public interfacing Facebook, we can find out where they are located physically, and we can harvest that information literally at our fingertips to see. So again, collecting labor market data, again, thinking about how you can collect it, where you can collect it from. You may not even realize there's, again, from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, many of you use those things already. There is more and more data, and lots of times you can obtain the data file, and then you can manipulate that data file to get kind of the trends that might be more specific for your region or for a specific job type of posting. And then when we turn that around to interpret that labor market, again, we have to understand who's the audience, how are we making, information interesting, easy to read, and insights. We all love infographics. I love them. They're great. I probably don't do as good a job, but it's just taking one thing at a time to put in an infographics and just basically to inform others. Here's an example, as you guys well know. This just shows where data that's been harvested nationally that was free data. It really looked at where the talent supply had specific parameters that were pulled, where the talent supply specifically resided, what was the salary cost or salary ranges, some of the diversity information, really just male or female, and this was for tech talent, and then the average job posting. This is all pretty interesting when you think about, again, reports that you're currently doing, and you probably have all this type of information on your current workforce, but do you have it on, other general workforce that might be related to jobs that you have, like tech talent? So looking at things kind of from a national landscape sometimes gives us a little more insight than just looking at our same old data and then not really seeing a bigger picture. I do want to, and these slides will be available and you can reuse them, but I always want people to understand that HR analytics, people analytics, and workforce analytics all have tiny bit of adjustment to them. And so I like this definition of HR analytics covers the metrics of the HR functions, such as time to hire, training expenses, so on and so forth. So that's really your operational, tactical side of your HR. People analytics is, again, customers of an organization, its employees, what are some of the demographics about that? And then workforce analytics is really a term that's, are they on site? Are they remote? Do they freelance? Are they consultants? What are the salary ranges? So people kind of make a broad statement about HR analytics, and I apologize, I do too. So I usually call that an umbrella, and then I try to glean from people what is it specifically that they're talking about or that they're interested in. So I want to talk a little bit more about human resource and analytics, thinking about human capital transformation. Oh, why is my slide go backwards on me? Sorry. And I like this slide thinking about what's the definition, how important is it to my organization? What are some of the key metrics, and how do I set that up for, again, performance improvement or performance evaluation, which we all do? How can I utilize technology to give me that feedback and that data so that people aren't trying to write up things once a year and then they forget, what's all the other things that I did throughout the year. And then what are the data requirements that I have? So I hear people so often say, well, I don't think that data is available. And I say, well, why don't you communicate what data you think you might need, and then let's go look and see. And so that could just be bullet points of data requirements. I think a lot of times people make the assumption it's not available when it might be available. Again, I can harvest things from LinkedIn as long as it's public accounts, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. If it's publicly interfacing, there are ways to go out and pull and glean that data. At the University of Louisville right now, as I said, I'm sort of on this bandwagon myself. I'm so committed that we really should have analytics all, meaning I don't care what your profession is. I don't care if you're the PR person, communications person. I don't care. Even our janitors need to know some things about analytics so that they can be more efficient in optimizing when they're cleaning buildings. So for right now, with COVID, we don't have as much people swiping in and out of buildings, so we have a key card and swipe in and out. But we could take that data and find out how many people are in the buildings, and then we could dispatch or organize our workforce, our janitors, who are the most important people on our facilities. They're just so extremely helpful and alert to tell us things. But we could harvest that data and see who's in the building, and then we could decide, well, we maybe really need to clean these 2 offices on the 3rd floor because there's only 2 people that are actually in and out of the building, and the rest are home, working remotely or whatever. That's just a baby example of how some of these things could be leveraged and optimized for an organization. So there are 4 types of techniques used in data analytics, and I just highlighted in yellow just a review. And again, several of you probably already know these things, but I just want to review them with you. Is that descriptive analytics is thinking about how we analyze and describe the feature of the data. For example, we have maybe this age range of people in these type of positions, or we have this type of experience or degree level in this type of position. So that's just describing what the data is that we're reflecting upon. Then we have predictive analytics, which helps us determine what future outcomes would be. So we can take what those descriptive analytics and say, how many females were promoted within the organization within the last 10 years. And we can go back and pull that data. And again, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that sounds easy to do, but it's hard in my organization. It's hard in any organization. The key is finding out where the data files reside. But on software, you have the software that runs the program, and then you have the data files that feeds the program. And so the data file really is a standalone unit. And so we look at the standalone unit, the data file, and say, what are some interesting trends that we might want to look at? Why do these people stay on the job longer? And why do these people not? Or what can we do to increase these folks' skill, and training, and or enable and arm them to move up in the organization? Or how can we improve our retention? So we look for those gaps in retention, say, wow, we're losing people in the 30-year-old female range. Maybe, and we have some other maybe health things, maybe they're having babies, and maybe we need to have a more flexible work schedule, or a more general policy for dads to take off work and new mothers to take off work. So we can inform policy and governance for those things as well. And then we have diagnostic analysis, where we answer the question, why did it happen? How did it happen? How we can look through those things. And then the last one is this prescriptive, what's the best way to get the best result, and how can we work through that to get that. And I'm going to bring up some tools in just a minute, again, that'll be free for you guys to use. But I just want to lay out the groundwork so we know that we're talking about what we're talking about when we're talking about analytics. Again, descriptive really meaning, what's the average, mean, mode. Predictive, what's the future outcome? How can we, fast forward to the next couple of years? And then diagnostic, where's the gaps? Where can we see that there's some correlations between people's activities versus the results and net outcome? And then prescriptive, which is kind of, again, digging really deep, is how do we maximize and optimize our best effort? These are the 4 that I just described, so I'm going to read them again. I just wanted you to see, again, recommend each one has, what they are, how to discover the root cause, and so on and so forth. And I'm going to give you a little data analytics tutorial, and again, a resource that you can do free and on your own, or you can send it out to your employees or your colleagues or your Uncle Joe out in California. It doesn't matter. But basically, we look at the data analysis and reporting. What is it we want? Somebody keeps moving my screen, sorry. And then we look at what the process is that we're going to use, what types of data we have. We look at what other things might we need, and again, not with barriers. Like if I was talking with you, I'd say, just tell me what it is you want. Tell me the fields or the context that you want. I wouldn't be asking you to go find the databases with that. I would go find that database. And then what characteristics that we want to look for, the application we might be using. There's all kinds. Microsoft has products. There's all kinds of tools that we can use for application software. And then what are the skills that we need? And then how do we start to utilize that data? Before I do that, I've talked for 20 minutes. That's usually not my style. So I'm going to stop for some questions, but I have here's a little break for you. Here's a little break. I always do this when we're doing any of these COVID sessions, is thinking about what else are employees doing during these conference calls. So you can answer in the chat room. How many of you are doing other work? Just kidding. You're sending emails, 63%. You're eating or making food, which I just did on my last call. Some have gone to the restroom. Some are texting. Some are checking social media, 43%. I hope nobody's playing video games. Some are actually shopping. Some are exercising. I actually have some weights right here, and during meetings now, I've been doing some exercising. So that was just your little break there, just your executive relief tool, I call it. Is just take a break thinking about analytics, but we're re-engaged to what our focus is. I think our focus really is thinking about how do people learn, and again with analytics, us teaching others, me teaching you these tools that I'm going to bring up on the next slide. Will help you to see, and me, to see where the gaps are. And I do these free seminars for companies all the time where I just do the tools. And I think about how we're teaching others is 90% participatory, because then I've got you involved. Again, on this webinar, it's the worst. It's 5% retention. So I'll get down to this 90% in the next slide. 10% is just reading. 20 is audio. So these are all weak elements, except for demonstration, where we can show people how to use these analytics in our company, or have a discussion group or some interaction back and forth. The real meat of the bone is practice by doing and teaching others. So I want to move to that section. But I'm going to look in the chat room really quickly. Are there any questions? All right, silence is not golden in webinars, but I understand until I get to the actual power here of what we're going to do. So there's analytics trophy, badges, certificates, and the ones I recommend for you to start with is Google Analytics. Even if you say, well, I'm Brown-Forman Corporation, why would I use Google Analytics? I'm going to show you in just a second why you do that and how you'd use that. Microsoft Power BI, which I'll show you, or Cognitive R and/or Cognos Analytics. These are all pretty popular, even utilizing Excel and Tableau out there. So have anybody, I swear I won't call on you, you can put it in the chat room, that is using any of these tools. Just put your thumbs up or yes, no in the chat room for me, please. Thank you, Sarah. New best friend, Sarah. Anybody else? Yes? I've tinkered with Google. Sadly, no. Good. I'll show you how to do it, and then you can show people more. And, teaching others how to do that will actually help you as well. Nope. Okay, good, 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 good. Good. Well, some hopefully will learn more and take you to the next step, and some will already know some of these things. And get my PowerPoint back up here and share, because I'm going to now go to the slide where we actually have some tools for you to take a look at. So at the university, we created, it's a free link, and it's on our louisville.edu. It's called Digital Transformation. If you can't remember that, just go to louisville.edu and type in Digital Transformation Center, and you'll get to this site, which I'm going to go to in just a second. And these are all free. You have to register with the vendor, which is Microsoft, Google, IBM, but you don't have to register for U of L. This is not our ploy to get your address or email to sell you things. We really have the intention to put an umbrella over the community to help our future workforce, and especially HR folks, to utilize more and more of these technology badges, links, trophies, certificates that are free. And so we have made deals and curated some of these. Some have more access if you have a louisville.edu address, but there are thousands of them that I'd like to show you, so that it can get you started right away, again, without having to join anything or do anything, but you will have to actually register with that vendor, Microsoft or whoever it is that you have an interest in doing. Let me bring this up really quickly. Meat and potatoes here. And almost there. Give me one more second. Almost there. It's coming. It's coming. And now it's loading up. So I just clicked on that louisville.edu digital transformation website, so you can see what we're doing, how we're doing it. And these are just pathways of possibility. And now I'm just clicking on the Learn button. And under the Learn button, you can see that there's a variety of ways that you can either take U of L courses, or you can get down here to search by course subject, or you can go right in if you know that you're using IBM skills, and you can click here and go to their learning site. And I'm just going to click through a couple of these just so you can see how easy they are to navigate. IBM's actually a little harder than anybody. You see how I just typed in the word free, and again, any of you can do this. And I say badges, and look at all these open badges, sources. I'm not going to log in because then you'll see all my badges, which I don't mind you seeing. But I just want to show you, this is another way to enhance your employees or yourself. It enhances by getting these actual emblems. And you can see underneath, some have a cost and some are free. No cost, no cost. I'm going to just show you, here's a cybersecurity badge. You take this training online, again, free. You go through, and then this is the badge that you get. It's a Skills Builder Fundamental badge. And again, I'm not going to go through all of these. I just wanted to show you, you access the digital transformation site, and we add ones every week. Literally, I'm negotiating deals with these vendors. I'm going to go to the Microsoft Learn, and then I'm going to do the Google Analytics, which is will be our concluding link. But here in the Learn product, say, what role do I want to play? Maybe I'm a data analyst. And so when I click, it's going to bring up all the items that are related to the data analyst. So it says here I can create this one, create and use analytics reports with BI. Well, you see I started that one. I've only done 3% of it. I think I have 12 or 15 different badges and trophies. But again, I would just click on it. And then some have video, some have assessment, and then it goes through here. If I want to learn, this is going to the introduction, using Power BI, the tour of BI, and then I have a knowledge check. And so again, for yourself and for your employees and colleagues, this is a great way to utilize some resources out there so we can build talent in this arena. And again, I just went to the digital transformation site and clicked Learn, and then I just go through the Learn documents, pick which role I might want to be thinking about. Again, I just chose a data analyst, but there's several others, and then go from there. And then the last one that I want to show, I'm just hitting back page so you can see how easy I got to that site. Is there a question? I'm sorry, I can't see. I've got my screen all covered up. You'll have to give me audio to ask a question or ask Susan, sorry. And I go back to the digital information site at U of L, and I now go to Google Analytics. And this is one I suggest people start. If you know nothing about analytics, this is right where you should be, is you will start right here and click on Google Analytics for Beginners. Notice how U of L did not ask for your name and address or anything. It allowed you to go straight into the application. And then, of course, they're going to ask you to register. So you see my registration up here on the right-hand side. So you'll have to do that. And they have, again, a video, or they have the modules. You can start and stop the modules. This one takes about 2 hours, but it helps you set it up. You get to navigate some of the files yourself. So that's back to that pyramid of you get to learn why you're doing, and it's okay. It's not going to throw you out. And then it actually gives you a course review, and then you have to answer some questions to move on to the next level, which would be the Google Intermediate. Again, these are all free for you to use, and you can send the link to anybody. We have Advanced, then we have the Power Users, and again, these take a couple hours. They get more intense right when you get to the Advanced and, of course, Power Users. But I would say even if you are, again, HR specialist, this is the wave of the future. And it's here now. It's not going to be going away. It's only going to intensify. It's only going to get more and more a requirement for us to utilize and do and figure out how we're going to use this and do this. So I would highly encourage you start with Google Analytics, because many people use Google and you can see how to harvest data on there. I also like, and I didn't put the link because it changes sometimes, if you go to YouTube, there's a Google Analytics for Facebook, and it teaches you literally in 10 minutes how to harvest data off of Facebook. Now, I've had people tell me, that they went through it and it took them 20 minutes. But literally in a half an hour, let's just say, I haven't timed it, but I have 30 years experience, so it's not fair for me to say that. But you could go to YouTube and type that in, analytics, Facebook, how to garner famous or get Facebook analytics data in 10 minutes. And you'll start to harvest and pull that data pretty darn quickly. You're going to be surprised about how you can do that. All right, so I don't see any questions, but I do see people have said, oh, they've tinkered around with things. They have some of these certifications and badges. And again, we want to share the love. We want you to send this out to, Cousin Joe out in California or Puerto Rico or London or wherever, or out to your people in your organization for sure. And then the other one I want to show you is on the cognitive classes. Again, various free badges, and you can see which classes you can sign up for those free badges and earning the badges, and how you can follow different paths for earning those badges, completing those badges. And here it has, again, programming or data science fundamentals, because that's really what it is. And again, at this level, most of you, I wouldn't expect you to know what Hadoop is and some of these other programming languages. But what I think would be good for you to learn is the introduction to data science. There's another IBM badge you can put on your resume, you can put it on LinkedIn, and you can learn more about data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, so on and so forth. I won't have time today to go into machine learning. That's another one where I do a little webinar, and I did one for the Louisville Community Center down in the West End. We had about 175 people, and I helped them create bots, B-O-T, which is little automated bots, and I found a great website that creates them kind of for you so you don't have to learn programming. And we all created bots in about 15 minutes, and they just went crazy over it. They were like, this is so great and so awesome, because I think it can be a little overwhelming for people to see, not figure out which to do. I encourage, again, you use these free sites to enhance skilling up workforce and yourself from a data analytics perspective. So, I'm going to go back out from the cognitive, and it always, again, just takes me right back to the digital transformation site at U of L. And again, we add ones every week. We're also partners with the Louisville Future of Work Initiative, who's been great partners with us, and they've done a lot of great things, and they have different ones you can go through, and they sometimes have scholarships for people that get displaced. So if you find yourself as an HR person having displaced some workers, lay them off, furlough them, and you might send them to this site to get reskilled and upskilled so that they can have an opportunity to get another job, but start out with another area. So Zach Morgan, thank you for your question, is saying, of the 4 techniques, which do you think is the most useful or most used for the 3 different applications, HR, people, and workforce? Gosh, that's a tough question. I think we are used to, Zach, just using descriptive, because we all learned Excel and we all learned how to do, ratios and averages and, basic statistics. What I will tell you is that the most popular on the rise is really the workforce, is really looking at predictive analytics, thinking about the workforce. We're fortunate here in Louisville, we have a company called Edge Analytics. If you haven't seen them, it'd be a good one for SHRM to have do a talk. And they're the people that actually created analytics for the sports industry, where they can anticipate kind of past behavior as future behavior trends. And so they have an application for the NFL where they actually can predict what the plays can be or should be against another team. I have a little company that I'm working with right now. It's called Jockey Analytics, and it is taking how you go to the track and you get a tear sheet that talks about the horse. There's no tear sheet or statistics on the jockey, and so it doesn't really tell us much about jockeys. Well, we're marrying those 2 things together. We're taking the history of the horse and the history of the jockey, so then we can predict who might win. Now, that might take all the fun out of it, but Moneyball for sports, that is exactly right. But if you think about it, it is just amazing to think about how you're going to look at these things. And again, we as professionals in HR needed to really start to take a look at, wow, what's happening around us, and can we, for our employer and for our employees, help make a better career path for them? And it doesn't mean it's the end-all be-all. We need to still make decisions with our head, our heart, and our gut. And I'm still a believer in that. But I think it's really important that we look at this predictive analytics. So I hope I answered your question, Zach. But if you start looking out there, you're going to see a lot more of this on the forefront, just as a bludgeoning area of HR. And then we have Cisco Networking Academy. The ones that I'm going to end with, that I'll go back to my PowerPoint slide, you'll indulge me for just a second, is I want to, again, talk about, how do I get started? And again, Google Analytics is like, the baby step. It'll build your confidence because you'll say, wow, I did that. That's pretty cool. I feel more confident with that. I know how to bring up things. I know how to, manipulate a little bit of data. That doesn't mean you're going to be a programmer. That doesn't mean, if you're sitting there in your head saying, I don't want to be the programmer. Well, I don't either. But I want to talk intelligently to guide and have leadership, to folks around me that are supporting me on what it is, how I want to manipulate the data, and how I want to look at the data. We have a couple more slides. Last one is, here's some data science tools. I mentioned those under cognitive. Again, we're not trying to make you data analyst. Those are people that use programming tools, visualization, all that. I want to just make you basic skills. What's my expertise? What can I do with it? How can I use it? And then last, I want you to use the link. And I say, here's the suggestions. Start with Google Analytics, then do that IBM Design Thinking AI Practitioner Badge. Those are all free. And the only thing you have to do is register. You go to the IBM site, you're registering with IBM. You go to the Microsoft, you're registering with the Microsoft. But you'd be surprised, even with Power BI, which stands for Business Intelligence, just do one of the intro ones, and it'll start to click to you like, more questions. And sometimes as a leader, we need to have more questions than we do answers, so then we can start to develop other people's skills so that we can answer those questions. And, thank you, Josh, for that nice compliment. He said he appreciated what I did in another session. And Susan had a good point too. Digital champions. You know, this is something, again, as you maneuver your career and your coaching and counseling supervisor, managers, and people at your work site. You know, we want you to try to, again, upskill. That's the name of the game right now. Analytics all and any artificial intelligence. And again, at that same link, you could click in there and just click on artificial intelligence and get the same startup elements that I had just shown you for analytics, but I'm trying to stay focused on analytics today, although I get enthusiastic about the other stuff too. So what other questions do you guys have? Well, I will put my email, and people always say, you're so busy, and I say, I am, but I always love to enable and arm people with more information. Again, you can do an inquiry just by going to the digital information website. There's inquiries, and you can click there and say, I want more information on X or Y, or you could hit newsletter if you wanted to sign up for a newsletter, because we're going to be rolling out a lot more of these. This is, you know, something I'm very passionate about. The university is very passionate about. Neely Beneputi made a commitment just last month. She said every single person that graduates from the university is going to get a badge or a certificate included into their degree, because that's where we're going with all of this. Is we've got to beef up our workforce in these technology areas, and really that's teaching others how to showcase this. So. Susan says you're going to get a quick session assessment, and if you want to know about any other webinars we're doing, or you have a request for one, put it on there. We're listening, and we're trying to support the community with that. And again, if you want me to do one for your company, it's free, because again, we're trying to help the community to be showcasing these things more, and helping them get the tools for free, so that people are, you know, tight on budget. It's, you know, it's a tough economic time right now. We want to help make sure people are reskilled and can move things forward. So with that, I close, but I'll be here if anybody wants to stay around and ask for a question. You now got 15 minutes of your life back to wolf down a sandwich, and thanks for your attention. And I'm sorry I rattled on so much, but not as my interactive session. Usually a little more give and take. So anyway, thank you all for attending, and I'll look forward to talking with you or interacting with you at some point in the future.